Here are my 7 secrets for hiring associates. You're not going to want to miss number 4. In my 20 plus years in law, I've hired more than 100 attorneys as both the managing partner of a large law firm and now as the founder of a boutique office. Hiring, it's not one of those things we learn in law school, and most of us have no choice but to get better through trial and error. And wow, has COVID made things harder. I've certainly made more than my fair share of hiring mistakes, but I've also found some of the greatest lawyers, partners, and friends who've made my professional and my personal life better. Here are 7 things I wish I knew earlier about hiring associates. In addition, we've created a checklist to pass along the do's and don'ts that I've learned and practical considerations we often overlook when we hire. Know what you are looking for. This may sound so obvious as to be silly, but stick with me here for a minute. Failing to give long-term thought to who and what you are looking for is by far the principal mistake most people make in hiring associates or even lateral partners. Are you looking for a worker bee to immediately jump in because you have an overflow of work? Or are you looking for an originator who can someday help you support the practice and generate their own work? More often than not, we as lawyers tend to be reactionary in our hiring. When faced with a crushing workload, I have a partner who routinely says, "I need a warm body to help me get all this work done." However, reactionary hiring, because of short-term circumstances, isn't going to advance your firm in the long run. Instead, you need to ask yourself, what do I need over a 1, 3, and 5-year time horizon? Ask yourself, what is the highest and best use of your time? What is your highest value in the business of law? Ask yourself, what is it our business model needs, and how would a new associate advance that model? Should you be spending more time in court? Should you be spending more time with your clients? Or should you be spending more time on marketing your practice? Regardless of your answer, you should begin by hiring someone who can relieve you of the stuff you shouldn't be doing. What characteristics do you need? Not all people are the same. Do you need someone with a court presence, or somebody who prefers to write at their desk or work remotely? Do you need someone with the skills to meet with and put clients at ease? Do you need someone who can put in grueling hours for a year or 2? Do you need someone who will be able to generate some of their own work in the long run? What does this person look like? Some lawyers, well, they're better in court. Some prefer to write in the background, and some excel when they're in the community generating new work. Generally, I'm looking for someone who is eager to be my student, to learn the way I write, to learn the way I tell a narrative, and who is willing to learn and evolve. Regardless of your answer, the hiring strategy, process, and timeline, it'll be different based upon your individual needs in hiring, and there truly is no one size that fits all. Experienced versus a newbie. Without a doubt, every lawyer with a busy client base has said these words, "Wow, could I use an associate with 3 to 5 years of experience?" But this is the most common hire that fails. We mistakenly believe there is a one-size-fits-all for mid-level associates, and they have interchangeable skill sets, the ability to work in any office environment or to work in the new remote world. And who doesn't come with baggage of being trained with somebody else's bad habits? Unfortunately, it's not a reality. The real question is whether it is easier to find someone in the marketplace who has exactly the skills you need, or whether it's better to spend some time and some money to train them to be exactly the lawyer that you need. My experience? Well, it's that associates you hire when they are young, train from scratch, and build into the lawyers you need are much more likely to stay with you and your firm in the long run. They are more likely to become your partners. They are more likely to advance the same business goals, and they are more likely to adopt and advocate the values and culture that you have built. And perhaps the most overlooked benefit is that they don't come with the burden of having to break someone else's poor training and bad habits. Unfortunately, there is a trade-off, and that newbies are less productive and can take months and likely more than a year to become economically viable. And at the outset, they may feel like 2 steps forward and a step and a half back. Often, they can't and they won't provide the immediate relief you are looking for, but they will pay off in the long term. Alternatively, you may want to explore a more flexible arrangement. I've found that lifestyles that accommodate the full-time practice of law are, well, they're generally inconsistent with the needs of many of the most talented and trained and experienced lawyers in the country. According to the ABA, there are literally hundreds of thousands of lawyers who've left the practice of law because of the desire to raise children or take care of family members. These attorneys, they have different goals, they have different needs, and if you are open to accommodating their desire to work part-time or to work remotely, you really can expand the pool of potential applicants. The interview. In my experience, the interview should be, 70% about learning about the candidate and 30% about pitching your firm as a place to work. While there is an oversupply of attorneys in general, skilled associates with the experience you are looking for will probably be difficult to find, and the good ones have multiple choices. Thus, I have seen time and again, and I've made this mistake more than once myself, where the interview becomes a pitch in trying to sell the associate on your firm. Usually, this strategy, it ends badly as the interview loses its primary purpose, which was to learn about and test the candidate. You are going to spend more time with your associates than you do with your family. You're going to pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars over the coming years, and picking the right candidate is of critical importance. Test them on their skills. Don't be afraid to give them hypotheticals on real-world legal questions. How they approach the question, and how they communicate a response to you is vastly more important than whether they know the legal answer off the top of their head. Was the analysis well thought out? Was it superficial? Was it designed to give you the answer that you wanted instead of the answer that you needed? Don't go into an interview without knowing the questions you are going to ask. Of course, you're going to want to keep it conversational, but at the end of the day, there is a baseline of critical information that is necessary to make an informed decision on a hire. Ask them about their achievements. Find out what motivates them. Figure out whether they're a natural optimist or are they a pessimist. And write down their answers. But don't write down your opinions or notes during the interview. That process, it will come later when you make a holistic analysis of that and all the candidates. Set job expectations in the interview. It took me a full decade of hiring to figure this one out. In my earliest hiring interviews, I disproportionately focused on the best qualities of my firm and our practice. I told candidates about the great people. I told them about our lives, our successful wins, and how great it is to be a practicing lawyer. But we all know that's not all there is to the practice and the business of law. There is also the grind, the late nights, the hard work, the feeling of pushing a rock uphill. More than once, I've hired associates who came in late and left early because they concluded my firm was the right lifestyle firm for their needs. Something I wasn't trying to encourage. If you need your young lawyers, your young associates to be the first in the office and the last to go home, you need to directly convey this to them in the interview. Tell candidates the hours you expect them to work on a monthly basis. Discuss whether that is consistent with the lifestyle and career they are looking for. Tell them whether your work style requires them to be in the office or if they can work remotely. Figure out what drives each of the candidates. Is it money? Is it time with family? Is it flexibility in their work schedule? Is it social recognition, or is it that they want to be your partner someday? These questions, they need to be answered in an interview, and it's not something you can work out after they begin. Hiring, it can't be aspirational. Don't forget about the conflicts. Failing to deal with conflicts, it's something that's bitten me a couple of times over the years. Well, it might not be something to deal with in the first interview. Before you extend an offer, you really need to figure out whether the candidate can work on your cases. We tend to hire from the pool that we're most familiar with, and that means there tends to be overlap in our cases, whether we know it or not. Hiring an associate who cannot work on your caseload, either because of their direct conflicts or because of their imputed conflicts, it can be devastating to your productivity and your bottom line. Here, there is no one-size-fits-all answer, but you need to at least ask the files the candidate is currently working on. I suggest that prior to making a formal offer, you tell the candidate that you intend to make an offer, but you really need to clear conflicts first. Ask them for a written list of clients they're currently working for, and you should be prepared to send the candidate a list of your current clients. With a more experienced attorney or partner, you will want to dig deeper. While sometimes a sensitive issue, you probably want to find out who their current firm's top 10 clients are and what cases they've been working on. Depending upon your practice, you may want to go back 2 or even 3 years to ensure you avoid conflict issues. However, you develop this strategy, the key is to make sure a hidden conflict doesn't undermine the very goals you had when you set out to expand your firm. Fail quickly, because sometimes you are just going to get it wrong. Regardless of how thorough your interview and hiring process, sometimes you're just going to get it wrong. And in those moments, fail quickly. Don't try to force it. Hiring is in many ways like a relationship. You know it when it works, and you definitely know it when it doesn't. When you are trying to keep an employee out of some sense of loyalty or guilt, I promise you, you aren't doing yourself or your business any favors. And I also promise you that you're not doing the associate any favors. While I've hired more than 100 attorneys, I've been forced to fire nearly half of them. And I can say with 100% confidence, if they aren't working out for you, you aren't working out for them. Never has an attorney I fired failed to find a place more conducive to their personality and their skill set. Firing a lawyer, it doesn't mean you're going to make them and their families homeless. Quite to the contrary, in the long run, people find the right job and the right place to work. In my 20 plus years, I have never looked back and said, I shouldn't have fired that person so quickly. But I certainly have suffered the consequences of not terminating an employee who doesn't fit sooner. Trust your instincts. Hiring, it's like great art. You know it when you see it. Finding the right associate is much more than finding great qualifications on their resume. It's about a cultural fit. It's about shared goals. It's about being able to make a human connection. It's about finding someone you feel comfortable trusting with your most valuable business asset, and that's your clients. If your instincts are telling you that something isn't right, it's a pretty good sign it's the wrong fit. If you're second guessing yourself even before you make the job offer, well, it's definitely the wrong fit. In a dozen or more instances, I've stretched to convince myself that the candidate was right, often because they looked great on paper or often because I needed some immediate help. Every single time, in every single instance I stretched, it turned out to be the wrong person. The nuances of finding the right employee are often difficult to identify, but you know it and you feel it when it's wrong. In conclusion, expanding your practice and your firm can improve both your quality of life and your profit margins, but it can also have the opposite effect. The difficulty in finding and keeping the right associates in an ever-changing marketplace, well, it's becoming more difficult. Associates, they're less loyal than they used to be, and the cost of employees is on a constant march uphill. But when you do find the right candidate and you bring them into your firm, it can be transformative to both your practice and your business. Don't forget to download our checklist, which is a practical guide built upon 2 decades of learning what works and what doesn't. If you find our secrets to hiring helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us out.